Hey there, kids. Finn with you. Finn's Revolution, WUSB Stony Brook until 9 p.m. Tonight we have part one of an interview with the great, the legendary KEITH LEVENE, co-founder of The Clash, co-founder of Public Image Ltd. A great guitarist, one of my favorites. Great guy. Stay tuned. We're going to start right away. So yeah, kids, we got a chance to talk to KEITH LEVENE the other day from Great Britain, where he currently is. And the first thing we talked about was his upcoming book. And we're just going to let things roll from there. It's not just an interview. There's plenty of music all in between. Interviews with KEITH will just be throughout. And stay tuned for the whole mess. This is part one of it. It's quite an amazing interview. Very insightful. Learned a whole bunch of things I didn't know. And I got to tell you, here's KEITH. All right, so KEITH, you have a new book coming out. Is it actually out yet digitally, or?
It's not out, and the thing is, I was reluctant. I didn't want to do a book, and I never wanted to do a book. And this has come up over the last 17 years. Oh, you're going to do a book? No, I'm not going to do a book. Oh, you should do a book. No, why? Why should I do a book? You should do a book because everyone's doing a book, and you can make some money. Oh man, is that the reason to do a book? I don't think so. My life's not over yet. I don't want to do a book. I don't want to do a book. And then, I was with a colleague of mine. You may have chatted with her on email. And we were looking at various projects. I mean, we weren't looking for this, but this thing jumped out. And I don't really want to mention any names, but let's just say someone well-known was doing yet another thing, very, very recently. And it's something to do with these kids that hitchhiked across America to see the Sex Pistols. It's like the 1 million people that were at the 100 Club gig. I mean, when I was at that 100 Club gig, there was 14 people there. Now there's 1 million people that were there. And it's like, so Kathy turned around to me and just said, oh, my God, what a pain. And I just said, look, I don't care. I'm going to do 2051. I don't care about this stupid movie, and I don't care about the $2 million advance or whatever it is they got for this bunch of crap, Anyway, the next day, she just started kind of questioning me on this and that, just talking, and she's sitting there typing it, yeah? And then she read it back to me, and I said, okay, I'll do a book, we'll do a book, because even actually, the reason it interested me was, it was just good conversation. It was just like, if you were talking to a guy that was 17 or 19 or 21 that was around in that scene, it sounded like exactly what happened. And actually, I'm that guy. I'm not a punk. So I just said, I called it Diary of a non-punk rocker, But, yeah, so September was the target date. I think realistically, it's all going to be 2014. Realistically, I might be able to get I might be able to get one of these albums I'm working on out before 2014, but there's no point unless we can back it up with the necessary, the necessary teamwork that you need to do, because, there's no record companies now, social media, all this kind of thing, and there's something missing on our little team. I don't know what it is. I know what it isn't. I know what we don't have. And so it might be smarter to wait till 2014 when I can back this up.
Yeah, we're going to hear a little more from KEITH in just one moment. We just heard a song just there from Violent Opposition, KEITH's first solo record called Fast Brass Slam. And this is from a great group of stuff KEITH's been putting out digitally. KEITH LEVENE's band Murder Global. This is Aztec dubbed. This is called, from the album Killer in the Crowd. A few more moments. Back to KEITH, and he'll talk about his first big band, Flowers of Romance. All right, so let's just touch some bases on some stories you've told, no doubt, a gazillion times, but we'll try to maybe get a couple of different angles on it. There's always a few bands and a few places and a few things in different cultures in Britain. Certainly, one of those bands was the Flowers of Romance, that a lot of things kind of spawned out of. Do you see it like that? Like the Flowers of Romance were kind of a seminal band at the time?
No, I think a lot of people you want the truth, don't you?
Yeah.
I can embellish this and make it sound really amazing. Okay, I can tell you what happened. And it's like Flowers of Romance was a band that kind of got together in, let's say, rehearsal rooms, maybe 4-6 times, and then they sort of branched off into this little version where Viv Albertine and this guy called Steve, can't remember his last name, was in it for about 2 minutes, and then they replaced me. I think me and Sid had some kind of argument, and me and Viv were having an argument, and that ended up her taking my position after I taught her how to play guitar, and this guy Steve, who was living in my squat, it was a bit knife in the back, and then then they weren't in the band again, and I was in the band again, and then Malcolm wanted Sid, and I said, Sid, to be quite honest, you are the Sex Pistols, so you should really be in the band, So it was done. But when it comes to creatively, nothing really came out of Flowers of Romance, but it was set that it could have been more like PiL than PiL if it had happened. Mm-hmm. Because Sid would have gone in a different direction. At the time, Sid was really... You want to hear about this, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. At the time, Sid had adorned his black leather jacket, and we were definitely going down a shaky path as kids in our lives, But when it came to the music and everything, we were in the chair, we were definitely in the right place. Sid was living his frontman life through Joey Ramone a little bit too much, but I was just letting that go and hoping that pass. He was really, really good at learning things. I taught him guitar, I taught him bass. I taught him how to teach himself. Now I'm not saying he was Tommy Emmanuel on guitar, but he learned in 7 minutes, and he had to practice a lot, and he did. And hence he could just join the Pistols and play bass, and he could play guitar too. I don't think it really came about. It was very destructive what happened with him and Nancy and everything. It didn't help anything. Back to Flowers, so there was a lot of potential there. It was a real buzz band. More in retrospect than it was at the time. Mm-hmm. But really, the band just died on the runway. It just taxied back to, like Sid was gone, and that was it. I didn't even give Flowers, and I wasn't like, oh my God, my band hasn't worked out. It was just like, okay, there goes Flowers. Next thing, I was with Ken Lockey, mm-hmm. And that's a good thing. That's still going on, Doing stuff with Ken now, that's amazing. Really, really, really classy stuff you wouldn't expect. Well, the kind of stuff you'd expect from Ken, but maybe not so much from me. But maybe it's, again, like the thing with John Wobble, Jah Wobble, Jah, as you would call him. It's unfinished business. And better to finish the business now, when we got our head screwed on and we're still here, than then. And that seems to be what's going on. He's got it in mind to do a documentary around me, but it's about what he does as well. It's about us. It's not just about me. It's about us. But, Ken, when I met Ken, he was the guy that, if anything, got me into video and 3D computer graphics. Ken was my biggest influence, and he was the guy that wasn't using record companies and getting stuff for nothing from the Arts Council and, really interesting stuff. He was the only guy I knew that was grounded and had his head screwed on, and we were making viable stuff. Now, the opportunity with John had been seeded when I was in the Clash of the Pistols, but, when I was actually working with Ken, and I was in the West End, I was in Great Portland Street, when I ran into Paul Young, who was sort of Lydon's best buddy type thing, kind of nice football thug type guy. He wrote the suit about him. Right. And, him. And he was like, where have you been, Keith? And it's just like, Ken was like me and Sid, Keith, you got to do it. You can't not do this, and hence I did. And I helped Ken with Virgin and everything, because obviously we were right at the top of the list on Virgin Records once that had happened. Right. And, that didn't hurt. But I haven't really had a chance to work with him until now. Ken's in America, and hopefully I'll be back in America soon. And we're working on stuff anyway, thanks to the internet.
Well, that sounds like an exciting project right there.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the answer to your question. But
no, but that was a good path. That was good. Okay, so the Flowers of Romance thing, if nothing, as you're saying now, and of course that's another one of those bands, as you just said, that everyone thinks was the greatest thing on the planet. Yet you who were there say it just kind of like it was a quick thing. People passed in the night almost, right? And
yeah, there was a guy
went their ways. But a great potential.
Yeah, great potential, no doubt, yeah, really great potential. But nothing happened. It never got out. I mean, Murder Global was a bigger band, and we only did 2 shows. And again, it was one of those sort of 7 people and 11 people were there. And one of those performances is on. If you put both the releases. So on the more expensive one, the actual Search for Absolute Zero, the original one, there's a video called What's... that's not it, though, is it? Yes, it is. Because that starts off with all this PiL footage, doesn't it? And then goes into some sort of graphic stuff. And the tune that sort of metamorphosizes into it is a really great... It was actually, I believe, the only live Murder Global performance, So if you want your Flowers of Romance, you're going to get it from Murder Global. And that was me... and a guy called Subs and a guy called Daniel, and I don't know their real names. I know Daniel's name's Daniel. He's a very unique drummer, and it's like, so there were 3 of us. It was very like PiL, and they were very into PiL. And that performance, it was a real-time composition, and it was a composition. Sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. That came off, and it was live. So, the mindset was live, and they're just so amazing the way they just keep that monotonous thing going. I don't know how familiar you are with it yet, But,
I've been listening to a lot of that, since I picked it up.
It's difficult to kind of, when you first, it took me a while to get used to that video. And then you realise, wait a minute, this is the Tom Snyder thing, and there's no PiL backing track like that, because it's Metal Boxing Dub. And that was done before I was even thinking about talking to Wobble. It wasn't done because of the Wobble thing, this MBID, as it's now called, Metal Boxing Dub. That was done because it was an unfinished business thing. It was a cathartic thing. I was making all these 3D things, and so a lot of them had these kind of PiL RIP logos in them, and all this kind of stuff, and sort of pills going on into the background. And I realised, oh God, I've still so got this in my system. It's not. I've heard people say that. I'm really upset about PiL. What is it when you're really... I can't think of the word. But I'm not. Okay, I'm a little bit... I just feel like there was unfinished business and there was a lot of potential. But the thing is I just feel like that's being fulfilled now. And it could never have been fulfilled in PiL. I think certain people were overestimated, and... the situation, 3 very strong egos. I'm not counting the drummer, Jim Walker, a really great drummer, but, Wobble functions best as the governor of his situation. Lydon, well, that speaks for itself. And me, well, you know me. So, it's working out best now. And it's just funny how I'm in contact with people that passed through the band, like Richard Dudansky and Ken, who was around at the beginning. Plenty of people are happy to contact me and try things, and it's really not a problem,
Well, your whole approach to music is so eclectic. You're open to so many things playing wise, so that's another great thing,
Yeah,
stylistically, you're all over the place, which is great. You're very diverse. It seems like you don't like to stay in one place for too long musically.
No, maybe it's because of my musical ear or what have you, but it's boring to do that. And and another thing is when you're actually doing it, you don't want to be doing something you think 55 other people are going to do that day. If I'm sitting around playing acoustic guitar, I don't mind if I'm just playing an old school tune that Chet Atkins played and Tommy Emmanuel's going to play every night, and I'm going to play it the same way. And if you like acoustic guitar, that's great, but I know I'm not breaking any musical barriers. I'm definitely trying to break musical barriers, and you're not going to sit around doing Pink Floyd tunes or doing something that everyone else is got to do. You know, you've got to try stuff, but it's a really hard line to walk along, because it's really important to not try so hard to be different that you're kind of acting like Subway Sect. You know, you've got to feel about it. You know, it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you're better off just sort of defaulting to what you can do. And so I'm always sitting there in a very self-conscious position thinking, oh, Frank, this isn't working out. I mean, when I did Search, I knew I'd nailed it, okay? But I heard it the other day and I was thinking, no, I don't know. But, I mean, that's been the gift that keeps on giving. And I'm just talking about the tune. I mean, Wobble wasn't even on that. I mean, when we did those sessions, Wobble sat down, we never said a word to each other, just like Metal Box, and we did it, okay? But we nailed it in one. With the Metal Box, we were doing it to tape, and sort of listening to tape and doing best of and saying, you know what, why edit it off the tape? Because no digital stuff, then when we can just do it again, let's do it again. Don't do that bit, don't do this bit, yeah? But this was just done. You know, I think Wobble had something to do, so he shut off. And me and Mark were still recording, and we did Search Absolute Zero, and I knew it was it. I was like, oh, this is great. And that was the third one that day. And, you know, I don't know what question I'm answering here. But
we're just talking and answering a question. That's good.
Yeah, so this thing, it's like, I've got this thing, you know, musicians, hey man, let's jam. When even the greatest musicians are jamming, they're not jamming. You know, when they're improvising, they're not improvising. They've got these little, I mean, obviously you've got to be able to play. I mean, you can play your instrument, right? But invariably, they're not jamming. They're playing stuff they know they can pull off. They're playing chops. They're kind of wanking off, you know, to an extent. And I know people that are into music understand this, musicians. Are you actually a musician, Finn?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so then you really understand that. And the thing is you've got to be very honest with yourself. So in split-second, nanosecond intervals, you're going to think, can I pull this off? And you've got to take the chance. You've got to be prepared to fail, okay? And you've got to be prepared to hear something that you're not going to be familiar with and you don't know how you're going to react to it. That's real-time composition. So it is improvisation, but it's really true improvisation. Now, obviously, you're relying on your skill, but you're discovering things as you go along. Now, when people used to slag off PiL, and a lot of people did, they'd say, you know, so indulgent, this, that, and I went through a lot of pain about that. But in the end, I just thought, you know, where's the place to do this, right? Live, in real time. It's the only way. And after getting such a great response from the Metal Box, and more so the first album now, because that actually more than got in under the wire. And the more I hear that album now, the more I think, wow, you know, we really fulfilled the brief, so to speak. You know, I realised, you know what, this works and it's worth it, and it sucks when it fails. Okay, it kind of sounds interesting. It probably sounds more interesting to musicians than it would to the general people that would be into it. Not the general public, because the general public's never been into this stuff. But, you know, but when it comes off, you know, the people that love it just love it. And I think...
Me.
Well, there we go. And you've got people that are saying, oh, you know, when are you and Wobble going to tour again? When's the NBA? You know, hey, what about, are you going to be doing 2051? Are you going to be doing Search for Absolute Zero? Because if I do Search, don't you think I'm going to be there and you're going to get all these chunks? You're going to get real-time composed second rendition. I mean, I'm doing this album, second rendition. I have to do an acoustic Metal Box, it would appear, you know. And it turns out I can and not have too much trouble legally. And I've been working on it, and it's going to be great. And
sounds really interesting, the acoustic version.
You know, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. And like the thing is, it's more elements of it than... I'm not going to sit there and do pop tones, but you're going to go, wait a minute, that's pop tones. What's that? You know, and it's just great. It's going to be great. So the stuff I'm doing because I believe people want it, and I'm doing it because I want to do it, and I can do it now. You know, with this fingerstyle guitar, you know, it's going to be gorgeous. Yeah, 2051 is like. It's a much bigger thing. It's very like Sergio Levene, you know. Are you familiar with... I did a tune... I did some tunes. I did Lou Reed Part 1 and 2, but I did a tune called The Slab, which only really touches on it. Okay, so the theme tune for 2051 is just so fucking dramatic, and it's all done on acoustic. I mean, I can orchestrate it. And if I release it, I have to do both. I've got to do the acoustic version and do the big version. And I want to orchestrate it with, a simulated orchestra and, all these Oberheim synths, very similar to the ones Van Geddes used on Blade Runner. Because I used to have a couple of those, and they're just amazing. And I've always really dug what Van Geddes did on Blade Runner, and I won't be copying him. I just know the potential of these synths, and there's so much stuff around now, and these are analog synths.
Right.
Yeah.
You also, but that's like your great sound on Radio 4, your keyboard work on Radio 4.
What do you think that is?
What do I think the keyboards are?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know offhand. Why? What is it?
Well, interestingly...
it's a great sound. It's the most spectacular ending to a record I could think of. After everything that happens, especially after chant, obviously, at the end, and Radio 4 comes in, it's just gorgeous. What is it?
Okay, well, I don't actually know. It was this Yamaha keyboard with 3 white buttons, and it was a kind of organ, okay? But it went there, so I took it there a bit further. I mashed it up through the desk a bit. And the reason Radio 4 came about was, I don't know why, but nobody showed up at the studio 2 nights running. I mean, the whole townhouse, 36 channels in, 24 tracks, state-of-the-art at the time studio. Nobody turned up the first night. I got used to it, and so I was there, and I'm like... And I'm doing it, and then the next night I've got to finish this off, and I knew what the sounds were. Then I went in, and I didn't change much. I just finished it off, took the drums off because there were drums on it at first. It was just, you have to know this. When I did the original of that, I was in the studio with Ken Lockie, and he was doing the piano, and I was playing drums on it. And then I went in there and I took the drums off and put the keyboard on it, and I really was it was my first attempt of doing an orchestra, and this keyboard was really giving it up. I said, this is great, this really sounds like it, No Prophet Fives, no Selena. I was trying to make it sound like a Selena, and I pulled it off. You did.
It's a fantastic sound. And is that you playing, just to talk about that specific song for a second, is that you playing bass on that too? Yeah.
I played it to kind of sound, I played it like, if Wobble could play bass more, this is what he would do, kind of thing. And I was also trying to make it sound like pick staccato cello.
Okay.
But we were really heavily into dub bass, and so I wasn't too bothered that it wasn't over authentic. It was just spirit of pick staccato, but Wobble, spirit of Wobble too. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you doing Wobble, right? If you're playing bass on. Yeah. It's great. I love that tune. I think that's one of the best. Matter of fact, I have on hand my original.
Nice. Man, you got to love those things, don't you?
You do, yes. And over the years, you always have to be careful taking them out and putting them in. But other than that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking to Keith Levene of Public Image Ltd, founding member and also founding member of The Clash. And in just a second here, we're going to be talking to Keith about the early days of The Clash, the early days of the Pistols, and the beginnings of Public Image Ltd. Right now in the background here, we got a little bit of a tune called Strut from the Yin and Yang album from Jah Wobble and Keith Levene, right here on WUSB Stony Brook. Let's dig this tune, and then we'll get back into a little chat with Keith Levene about The Clash, the Pistols, and the beginnings of Public Image.
So let's just go back a little bit. When PiL was starting, okay, how did PiL get off the ground initially with you and John and John?
How did we form, and how did it get off the ground?
Yeah, how did you form?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was this punk rock scene, there was this scene, there was the Sex Pistols, there was the Clash, there were all these awful bands everywhere, and there were people on the scene. Some of them were pretty typical rock and roll guys, a la Billy Idol, Tony James, dare I say, Mick Jones, and a few others. Some people were the same age, but they came from a different scene, much like Wobble and Ronnie, who were 2 guys that went around together. John Gray, intellectual guy, kind of did Johnny Lydon's music. I'm sure you know of him.
Yep.
You might have seen his Sex Pistols interviews. Good guy. people like that, Dave Crow, old friends. So all these little contingents. I had my little guitarist contingent from North London who didn't make the scene that much, but they were around, you know, they knew what was going on. Anyway, so because all these little mixtures were around, conversations were had and what have you. All right, so to get to the point, the Clash were always doing gigs. We were called the Clash by then. The Pistols were doing gigs. Pistols were the first band, this, Pistols were the first band on the scene, and so we'd be doing these gigs, and the inner circle of the Sex Pistols and the outsiders of the Clash, which is me, were the same people: John Gray, Jah Wobble, John Wobble, Ronnie, all these people, more, Sid, all the Johns, John Ritchie, Sid, John Wobble, hence Wobble, Sid, because they were called John Gray,
right.
We talk about music, and actually quite geeky, really, probably, in our own ways, and, cut a very long story short now, and I've said this in every interview, I'm at this gig at the Black Swan with the Clash. We've already had a few arguments. I really find the Clash, I never liked the name The Clash, right? But I was really kind of getting embarrassed with them. And, John was at this gig. So it was a Pistols Clash gig somewhere. I don't know where the mucky duck is, this Black Swan. It could be Birmingham. I just can't remember. John's sitting on his own, I'm sitting on my own because, I'm ousted by my band, Mick was, I remember it vividly, Mick going, oh, God, look at that horrible green shirt you're wearing. Who told you to wear a bowling shirt to the gig, And I'm just going, oh, very rock and roll, Mick, whatever, and I'm talking to John, I'm going, I noticed you're hanging out with your band a lot, and he's going, yes, and I know him, I knew him anyway, I've hung out in squats with him and everything, and I just said, look, I know this is never going to happen, but, the Pistols split up. We should do something together, okay? And he yes, and then let's say the conversation's over. Yeah, but the idea was positive. But the thing is, me and John really liked each other. I mean, John was a very cool guy. Then he was. There's no doubt. He was stepping up to the plate. Bernard Rhodes really. He scored the Pistols while Malcolm was away for a certain 2 weeks. Very early on, 76, 75, 76, yeah. And coming out of that is why the Clash even came about, because Bernard was like, I want my own band, because the Pistols were Malcolm's. Now Bernard and Malcolm, were an item. Not they weren't gay, okay, they were an item, right. Creatively, yeah. And
we don't want to start rumors here, Keith.
Yeah, don't want to start rumors. Yeah. Actually, they were totally gay. No, but the thing is, Bernard's like talking to Mick Jones and really hoping there's something going on. Then I come on the scene. It's like, pow, it all goes into action. Get Joe, and then I realise, what? Who's the other one out? Me. So I leave the Clash after the Roundhouse gig with Patti Smith, and working with Ken Lockheed, did Flowers of Romance. We're kind of I didn't know it was called that then, but we were styling Sid, because Sid just kept changing, yeah? Okay. And it was just so much fun. And, I remember I worked at the spot one day. I mean, Lydon was there, okay? And, I cut his hair and put this raincoat on him and these wraparound sunglasses, and we were just having fun. And we said, let's go to the West End. Went up to the West End, and everyone stopped and said, can I take a picture? And we're looking at each other and going, this is cool, So, that was the beginning of Sid becoming a kind of inner circle, star. Sid, and I was talking about Sid suddenly, yeah? So all these things led towards PiL, So then suddenly, bang, the Pistols split up. Who saw that coming? I mean, who ever really saw that coming?
Right.
Pistols split up. I'm working with Ken, bumping to Paul. John's like, you found Keith, get him over here. So I'm over there 2 nights later, and it's like, so it's going to be Public Image Ltd. It's like, PiL, yes, PiL, with a line down the middle, and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, yes, yeah. Who's going to play bass? Well, and he just goes, Wobble. John Gray goes, oh, gosh, yes, it has to be Wobble. It has to be one. Okay, it's Wobble. It should be Wobble. Wobble's great. He can't play. This is wicked. This is just what we need. I always get people that can't play. I'm not saying, I've been in a million bands, but when I do projects and stuff, invariably, and I do this more by choice now, I get on better with people that have got ideas but can't actually play. It doesn't take much to get them going, and invariably they want to be able to play something. I mean, if they're useless, you can always get someone else. But it's good. It's good because they can't read music, they can't play, and that's where you're going to get something I'd never think of.
That happy-go-lucky Mr. John Lydon right there, the lead-off song to Public Image's debut album, PIL, Public Image Ltd's debut album, and this is Theme. And we are talking to Keith Levene, this guitarist doing all that skronk and wonderful noise on this particular record, and he does all kinds of stuff, but on this record it's a lot of skronk and noise, which I love. And we're going to join Keith in just one more second about the actual beginning of Public Image Ltd.
All right, so were you guys like nervous when the first record came out, the first PiL record? I mean, because Johnny was a quote unquote the star, right, of the group, I guess, comparatively.
That's what,
coming off the Pistols.
You're talking about what happened with PiL when we first got together. The first thing we did was say, okay, Johnny Rotten. It wasn't a rule. It was up to John. He said, no, I want to be John Lydon. Great. We've got Johnny Lydon now, so we've got the guy that played Johnny Rotten in the Pistols. Okay, now he definitely got a bit confused with all that later on, but first album, The Metal Box, he was pretty, like I said, he stepped up to the plate, and it was John Lydon, and it was really, not over-trying, he really tried hard. He understood where I was coming from. He was like, oh, it has to be Keith, and Wobble got it. I mean, Wobble knew enough. I mean, Wobble's very much a Jah Wobble fan, there's no doubt about it, and that's great, and that's why he's got the gravitas, and he's like this bass, he's a bass guy,
Right.
So that, it's perfect stake in the ground thing, he's consistent. And, John really embraced the possibilities that, I called it Product 3, that he didn't know, all the stuff that we didn't know was going to happen, initial PiL, no more Rotten, Johnny Lydon, we're not a band, we're a company. We produce our own stuff. Why? Because we know how we want to sound, or we definitely know how we don't want to sound. Okay, we're going to find out how we want to sound. Jesus, man, if we're going to be spending £70 an hour on studio time, we're going to be the ones using the studio. I mean, it wasn't stupid. I mean, I hung out with maintenance guys, and like on the Flowers, Nick Larnay, who co-produced it with me, was the friggin' tape op. Okay, and it wasn't long before I said, guess what, Nick, you're a producer now. And he said, what do you mean? I said, because you're producing this for me, because he was just great. And, so it wasn't like we were stupid kids that were ignorant, I watched everybody. I had to remove certain engineers from the room for various reasons, because Johnny would play Johnny Rotten. He liked playing Johnny Rotten, that was part of his character. That was the character he discovered through the Pistols, and I love Johnny Rotten too, I love Johnny Rotten, no doubt. And John Lydon these days, who knows? But John Lydon then, was really doing a lot. So this was all. These are all some of the parts in the initial PiL initiative idea,
Yeah, my name is Finn. This is Finn's Revolution. We're talking to Clash founder and Public Image founder Keith Levene, one of my favorite guitar players of all time. And we're going to continue our conversation with him in just a moment, right after one of my favorite songs of all time.
So we're on WUSB.
Stony Brook.
And this is Keith Levene suggesting that you tune in every day. Otherwise, we're going to have to send somebody over to your house.
And now we're going to get back to our talk with Clash and Public Image founder Keith Levene.
You guys come out with the first issue, the first album. And the single, of course, Public Image, was a big thing in Britain too, right? The actual single? The single Public Image?
Not sure. I mean, I know it got in the charts. I think it got to, I don't know if it got to number 7 or number 30. And, the charts counted then. You had Top of the Pops and you had radio, you had a radio channel or two you could rely on. They were playing the record on that channel. You knew your record was happening. So it was on the radio enough. And there was a stigma because of the Pistols. They were like, actually, we want to play this record more. We don't know whether to because it's Johnny Rotten, but it's not. It's Johnny Lydon, and it was all a bit confusing. And the other thing PiL had, it didn't really go in our favour, was everyone thought we were suddenly going to turn around and go, "Yaha, fooled you, big joke, haha, you fell for it." We don't mean any of it. And I don't know why, but it was always like that. I don't know what they thought, but I mean that's my perception of all these weird. Because much like the Beatles, when we'd come out with stuff, we'd get slammed. They'd listen to every night and they'd say, well, he didn't do this, well, he played E minor on that, should have been E. And it's like, why should it have been E kind of thing? And, a bit as pill to swallow, self-indulgent, arty band, they don't care about anything. And we did. I mean, we were doing it as much, well, I certainly was, as much for all the people involved that might want to get this record as ourselves. I think I do things more for myself now than I do for an audience, but not too much, because everything I work at now, it's about, won't this be great if people pick up on it? So, it's, you can't have one without the other, really. And when we were doing PiL, we were in the position to do what we liked.
Right.
And we did and we didn't. We did what we liked, but we were very aware that a lot of people were listening to this and kind of relying on us to come through,
All right, so the Pistols are, the Pistols are done, PiL is forming. You guys get Wobble?
I'm making it too complicated. Yeah, we get Wobble, and it's like, yeah, Wobble. And so Wobble comes in. One thing I'm going to do with Wobble one thing I'm not going to do with Wobble that happened with Paul. I mean, I never did this. Mick showed Paul the bass lines in the Clash, yeah? And I was like, I'm never going to show Wobble anything. I'm never going to show him anything. And the greatest thing about, here's the example, the greatest thing about Wobble was he knew about music. He knew what he wanted to be like. He just had it. You know what I mean? When someone just comes on, they've got it. And Wobble's a bass guy, there's no doubt. I mean, look at his lines, they're really simple. He does it still, he doesn't know that much about music. I mean, he knows about timing and stuff like that now, all this kind of stuff, I'm just saying it's just the technical stuff. The theory, he doesn't really have it, and that's his strength, he's got the feel, it all comes from his spirit, and that's what it was like then. So the most I'd ever tell Wobble to do would be if you got, say you had a thing like the bass line to pop toners, he might have done it in A sharp, and I just said, move it down one. I didn't even tell him there's a simpler way of playing it. Didn't tell him nothing. Just let him do it the way he wanted to do it. He liked shapes. He played because he liked the shape of it. Sometimes he played because he liked the sound of it. Sometimes it's a combination of both, And he'd never turn around. I'd never have to say, I need that in F sharp, I need that here, I need that there, I might have to say, I need another bit. I want to do this, but I need another bit. Mm-hmm. Okay, I never tell him what to play. Okay, now when they were telling Paul what to play, why tell someone to play dun 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 dun? Oh, that's never been done before. And this was that kind of polarizes the frustration I have with the Clash, and the frustration I did not have with PiL, the freedom I had with PiL. It was really amazing. Lydon wasn't the most musical guy, but they understood bands. They understood what was missing in music, what was needed on the scene at the time, with the Pistols. And the first album, whatever it's called, first issue, is the best example of that. I feel like we kind of fulfilled we understand punk brief, but we don't really need to be that useless. And this is an example of where we're going, and it kind of, we cut our teeth on that first album, and I think it counts, and I think it's really interesting that
there you go.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, and it only just got released in America this year.
Well, actually, it just got released digitally in America this year, right? Yeah, just like 2 months ago was the first time you could get the digital downloads of the thing. Yeah, but this is my record from when it was released. So yeah.
What, this new release?
No, the one I have in my hand. This is the original. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be an import.
Yes, correct.
And that's why it wasn't released, just to dispel any weird rumours about PiL being difficult or this, that, the other. This is what happened. We made the record. The idea was it was going to come out on Virgin, it's going to come out on Warner's. Okay? Richard, naughty boy, imported it. Warner's turned around to us and said, "You've imported the record." I said, "We didn't import the record. Richard imported the record." And I said, "Well, guess what? We ain't releasing it on Warner's." And we're like, okay, so then Richard's going to sell a lot more records, isn't he? You know? And so Richard got what he wanted.
But hence no official American release.
Until 2013.
Right.
I've got to say, my sister Jill predicted that. She said, Keith, that record's going to come out in 30 years and it's going to be fine. So I don't know how fine it is. I don't even know who released it, Finn.
I have to tell you, I don't know either. I don't have the most recent copy. I don't know if it's who officially has released it either.
No,
I always rely on my original record. But
yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if I'm answering whatever it was.
No, but a great sound to that record, and what made that your guitar parts, are amazing on the whole first issue album, with a lot of feel for the direction that the metal box would go into, like in theme. Right?
Yeah, you can see it now, can't you? I mean, I couldn't even see it then.
Of course not. Of course, yeah. Well, you're in the midst of it, so you always can't see it. But it's, there's certain things on this record that are just like, absolutely amazing in terms of showing the direction you guys were going to go. And the aggression on some of the tunes, like Attack and Annalisa, just between the guitar playing and Johnny's vocals and everything else, just brilliant stuff.
A little bit more exquisite than simply punk rock, and definitely spirit of punk, spirit of the times, but just, with a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Je ne sais quoi, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, there's certainly a unique personality to the whole record. It doesn't sound like any other band.
Well, that yes, I like that. And, yeah, it's true, it doesn't. Never did. And that was the idea. Who wants to sound like any other band,
Do your own thing?
Well, yeah, but a little bit more than that. Do your own thing, but I don't know, a little bit more than that. Always know what I didn't want.
Okay.
Yeah,
and the bass sound on this record, that's another thing that you didn't even necessarily, I didn't notice when I first got it. I was a kid when I first got it. I got it, and you didn't notice the bass sound as much. But now that bass sound is mixed up. It just was mixed up so beautifully in the mix. That whole wobble sound was right there, bang. You can even on the punkier tunes, you had that almost extremely low-end dub-style bass.
And it slowed it down. I remember with the Clash, when we put the Clash together, it was like, it was a no-brainer, but nonetheless, you have to understand, like, the kind of tunes that were going on in the Clash were pretty rock and roll. They were leaning towards kind of not very good Faces tunes, not very good Beatles tunes, not very good Stones tunes, but trying to be that. And I said, okay, first thing that has to happen, this has to go faster, right? Next thing, no dinky winky wank solos. It's got, not like the Ramones. This isn't the Ramones, yeah? So it's not, I'm like saying that, it was a no-brainer. So with PiL, it was like, we have to go slower. It was just, again, it was innate. It was like, we have to go slow because of where Wobble's coming from, to squeeze the juice out of that. All we got to do is go slower, and we'll just be like bathing in it, okay? And then I got the chance to do the cold shower stuff and put a load of sounds on and do a lot of soundscaping in the mix that isn't really over vamped. It's not over talked about either, but it's there, and it's really there. And the reason I think a lot of people like Metal Box is there's a lot of prog rock production on it. There's a lot of production on it and it was done this way. It was done so you don't notice it, but the reason those simple tunes keep on giving is because there's all this, there's a lot of dimension there. Mm-hmm. It took a lot of time. It was really thought about. And I think it was based on, growing up when I was like 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, so, initial things with the Beatles, Zombies, all the bands, the Kinks, you name it. And then going through a jazz phase and Billy Cobham and Ian Hammer and John McLaughlin and Carlos Santana, all the rest of them, and then, sort of settling on Yes and loving the Pink Floyd gigs and actually growing up going through that, not sort of getting it in retrospect, but being there when Quadrophonic didn't exist, and then it did exist, and then I saw it live before you could get it, and all, and then going into studios that had quad, but no one used it, yeah? And then, well, are we mixing the quad? What's the quad? Okay, we're mixing the stereo, but I'm going to make this happen, and I'm doing it all with pre-reverb and all this kind of stuff, you know, big. And you got Patti Smith talking about the sea of possibilities on horses, and, you know, she's talking about the mixing desk, and I know, you know, because I love Patti Smith, and love Lenny Kaye, and I love a lot of people. People think I hate musicians. I do hate musicians, but I don't hate musicians that are cool and that are good, you know. So I don't hate every musician, though, but you know what I mean. I think you understand where I'm coming from.
Musicians are open.
I mean, I hate punks, you know. I hate punk rock. I do.
Right.
I hate punk rock more than I hate musicians.
Even after the first album, you absolutely did. You guys came through fantastically with Metal Box, and it's probably one of the greatest albums, if ever, period, of any kind of record. It's just a fantastic, fantastic record. When you guys went in to do the Metal Box, did you consciously say we're going to do something different than what we did last time, or did things just fall together that way?
I saw myself in an interview. This is interview. An early MTV interview with a guy called J.J. Jackson, who's no longer with us. Great guy.
Sure.
He asked me about Commercial Zone, and he said, "What's happening on this album?" I said, "Well, it's our next album, so naturally it has to be better than the last three." And that's how I thought of that Metal Box. I just thought, well, you know, we've done first issue. I was pleased enough with it. Okay, in retrospect, it's easy. At the time, I was pleased enough with it. But, you know, the only rule we had was excellence. You know, our rule was, we knew what we didn't want, and it's like that tune I made. I'm looking for something, I don't know what it is, but I know what it is once I hear it, you know. And with the Metal Box, you know, I just wanted to deliver. We all did it. It wasn't just me. I mean, we all wanted to deliver. And we were in a certain playground. We were in the PiL playground. People were counting on us to have a certain spirit of punk, a little bit of, you know, we're going to do it, we're going to do this. But at the same time, luckily I was in there and I had this musical GPS that kind of said, that's working, you know, we don't need to do that because they're all doing that. We don't need to, let's not do this, you know. And so, yeah, you know, we just went in there with expectations of excellence. I have to say, I never, ever thought they'd be talking about the Metal Box in 15 years, let alone 20 years, let alone, 33 years, you know?
Yeah, you're on top of it, so you don't see it. Yeah, you can't tell all the time when you're on top of it.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be even considering doing it. I'm 55 now,
right. Okay?
And I never thought I'd be thinking, well, I'll be 56 this year. I'm going to be doing shows in whenever it is, 2014, you know?
Right.
And I fully intend to do, you know, Japan and New York and LA, not at all, but you know, a couple in Japan and then a couple in LA, and the LA one, I want them to be unique. I want it to be, oh, you missed the New York one. It's always been like that with PiL. Right. You know, I've always done that. And, you know, I've never done a set in my life, you know, but the point I was making is, I thought 32 was way past it, you know, and then when, you know what it's like, you become 32 and you think, well, you know, maybe it's 35. And then, like, 45 is the new 30, and now 55 is the new 45. And I'll tell you something, man, 55 is the new 55. It's that simple. You know this. I know this, okay? And I never thought I'd be doing. I thought I'd be a kind of fat guy directing movies now or something, which is still, you know, eludes me. So who knows, you know? Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, we are talking to KEITH LEVENE of Public Image Ltd, founding member of The Clash, founding member of Public Image Ltd, and having a little chat with him and listening to some great sounds right now on WUSB Stony Brook. I'll be with you till 9 o'clock. I think at this juncture we're making this a two-part special, so I'm going to continue this, I think, right into next week. We have so much fun stuff from Keith, some great insights, but right now let's hear Johnny sing it.
Well, there was no tour.
No, but there were shows.
No, there was no tour. I mean, when we did Radio City, we were one band. You know, when I did the Ritz, I'd come to New York on my own. And it came up from a cancellation with Bow Wow Wow. You know, it wasn't an arranged gig. You know?
Okay.
And the only reason we did it was because I said to the Ritz, look, you know, I want to use all your video equipment, and yeah, we'll do the show then. They said, okay. They just said, I think they would have said anything, you know, just to get us to do this gig. John wasn't even in New York. We had no band. Wobble wasn't in the band. Jim wasn't in the band, you know?
Right.
I don't even remember doing Radio City. I remember doing Roseland.
Was it Roseland? Or what? Oh, maybe it was Roseland. I think you're correct.
Yeah, we did Roseland. I remember doing Radio City. I remember the Clash doing Radio City, but I don't remember that.
But that was a brilliant show, and that was with the full band, the show at Roseland.
That was probably Pete Jones, Martin Atkins, me, and Johnny Lydon.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that wasn't Wobble. Oh. There were no shows with Wobble after... Jesus, I don't even know when.
Well, anyway, the Ritz show, the famous Ritz show, of course, I was there with my girlfriend at the time.
You came to the Ritz?
That's correct. And
what was it?
A bunch of friends of ours, and it was a bit chaotic, to say the least.
Oh, really? What makes you say that? What?
People, first of all, when you guys came in, what was your intention? How were you intending to present that particular... if the show would have gone on to the end, you know, and it ran all the way through, let's just assume briefly, was the whole show planned to go like that, or was something else going to happen?
No, it was a strategic move, you know. It had to end in 20 minutes. Whatever happened. No. Okay, look, I'm in, you know, I'm doing this, I'm in New York having a holiday and getting a lot of attention and realizing, you know, we should be in New York. And then Stanley and Jerry Brandt offered me the place. And I'm with this guy who will remain nameless, and a guy called Ariel Lucas, and they were all into the cable scene, and we went... Yeah, you know, I'd met these kids anyway, and I was really into cable and I was really into video at the time. I was actually really into 3D graphics, but they weren't so turned on by that. But the whole special effect thing was coming into video. Cable was happening. Manhattan Alley was happening. You know, Moogie Klingman's channel, and just loads of stuff was going on in New York. You know, it was kind of as exciting as the internet, but much more hands-on, you know, because there was personal contact involved, yeah? And that was really great. And there was this kind of missing element. And then, bang, they offered this gig at the Ritz. And first I just thought, great, a gig in a decent place, like, great. And then I go there, it's got one of two only screens in the world. There's only one other in Tokyo, a big GE video projector, which would be like having, that would be, now, somebody offered me a club and saying, guess what, Keith, we've got holographic projection, nobody's got that. You can have 3D, you can have 3D on YouTube, but you can't have this. Okay, this scans the audience's eyes, and this can be any way you want it to be. You know, well, this was like, they had the biggest video screen in the world. It was amazing. And when you walked into this booth that they had there was a frigging TV channel, but it was the state-of-the-art modern one, but it was all miniature. It's Grass Valley units, you know. And there's a kid there, Chris, that ran it. So I had a technical director, and I just say, so guys, can we do this gig if we can use all your video equipment? They say, yeah, okay, just don't make sure the screen is fine, you know. You know, what's the worst that can happen, kind of thing. Why are you saying that, you know? It was almost like they knew what was coming. I didn't, okay? I didn't know what a bridge and tunnel crowd was, you know? Didn't know, yeah, and so, you know, I had to get John over. I was trying to get John and Jeanette over. It hadn't occurred to me I didn't have a band. There is no PiL. There's no PiL, a band. Right. And I'm like, this is exactly what PiL's been threatening to do. Whatever it was we were doing, I just wanted to play it out. It was kind of a little bit. It's not like I was on a mission, not a suicide mission, but I was on a mission. And you know, John eventually came over, and it was not very helpful, as John would be. That's what you'd expect. You know, and everyone's a bit nervous. Everyone's a bit, oh, Johnny, well, we can't. And I said, don't worry about it. Just tell him what to do, you know. And whatever it was, he wasn't doing it anyway. So we tried to get pre-production together. I had some stuff on film. I'd done some interviews for it. I had an idea of what we were going to do. I wanted to use the cameras like instruments. No one had done this, bruv. You know, the thing is, I mean, this is all a bit yesterday now, but at the time, MTV wasn't even on the air.
Right.
You know? And like, I wanted to use, I wanted to project us on the screen. I didn't want us to be on the stage, in front of the stage. I wanted us to be there live. You know, I didn't really have any concept of what we were going to do. I wanted interaction from the audience. I thought the audience would dig it. You know, I wanted to play records. I didn't know. I mean, everyone does it now. You know, I didn't know that would be such a no-no. That's what started the riot. A bottle hit the deck. Right. When we were doing that Flowers of Romance thing, I was thinking, this is working out. You know, John's doing some kind of mime, and I can see it on a little camera. I couldn't see it on the screen. And I'm like, this is going great. I think I was playing drums. Who knows what I was doing, you know? I hired a drummer who was like, he seemed about 60, maybe he was 49, but he seemed really old. Sammy Ulano, you can see him on YouTube talking about this. He goes, yeah, I played with the PiL. And he calls me she. He goes, she came in and said this, that, the other. Yeah, all this kind of stuff, yeah. So I hired him. He showed up. Okay, I had to remove him from the drums after the first. He started saying, you know, it's just like, oh no, yeah. But when I hear the tape,
had you guys rehearsed at all? No rehearsal,
no,
right?
No, I told you, never done a set in my life, and we didn't rehearse, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't, and really, when I think about it, it's fucking crazy, and you know, really, I should be tied. I was fit to be tied. I mean, you know, but I got to say, even though somebody grabbed me by the knees and carried me up the stairs and probably saved my life, and the gig stopped, it was one of the greatest things I'd ever been involved in. I had kids coming upstairs, kind of covered in blood, going, wow, man, that was the most incredible thing I'd ever been to, you know?
Right, and it was.
And I know it got a little bit violent and all this kind of stuff, but that was never the intention, you know? But these kids loved it, you know? And obviously a few people didn't like it. You know, there were, you know, I mean, John was amazing that night, you know, the way he taunted the crowd. I mean, you were there, so you know.
I was there, yes.
Fucking scary doing that show.
That's what I mean. Asking you guys were nervous, right? When things started to go awry.
Dude, think about it. They're throwing chairs and bottles at the screen.
Right.
And I'm not even thinking about the gravity of that. I'm thinking, oh my God, Stanley's going to kill me. I mean, you know, these are mafia guys, and I'm thinking I'm in New York and I'm 23 or something. I'm thinking, these guys are going to come around my place and dump me in Arizona. You know what I mean? Over this frigging screen. And all I jumped on the mic and said, if you guys destroy the screen, I'm going to destroy you. I had all this low frequency stuff at the back, and I was going to start making people have pants and stuff, you know? And somebody grabbed me and took me upstairs, and it was over. And I settled for that. I thought I like that outcome, you know, because it really was intense. A shame how insane, you know, a video gig and nobody got any of it on video. I mean, there was a little bit of footage of it, but nothing really.
Yes. And I think the only ones I've seen of it, there's a couple little tiny clips of things which aren't very good.
Yeah, and you know, that's what I mean. It was no doubt, and that, you know, you got to love public image for events. This is what we were in business for events, you know, for something that can only happen at a PiL situation and will never happen again.
Right.
That's why I hate sets. That's why I hate tours. That's what. Apart from that, look at Buddy Holly. He's the template for a dumb tour. You know, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it's not like he set out to say don't tour. He was just like, well, I really don't want to do this. Can't we do this in the summer? And then he takes a plane just so he can do his washing, so he can look good on stage because he's a polite guy. And you know, that's the price you pay. You know, that's the price you pay for letting other people completely run your lives. Not for you, but for them. You know. I mean, you know, they're saying Buddy Holly, oh, you need to sell records. And they're like, no, you need to sell records. Buddy Holly was selling plenty of records. He was doing fine, you know, and they dragged him off tour. Why tour the Midwest? Why not tour somewhere warm, you know? But anyway, I didn't know about Buddy Holly until a few years ago, very recently. Okay, the actual story. I mean, I knew who Buddy Holly was there. But my instinct was that you don't want to do tours because you don't want to do the same thing every night. And guess what? We don't need to. Let the New York Dolls do that, or whoever the bands were in 1972, or let Yes do it now. Because bands like that with big road crews that just do a production like that, I guess you have to have a plan. And their stuff's so good, you know. You know, the thing about my stuff is you never know what I'm going to do next. That's my gig. That's what I do. You know, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, and that's what it says on the box. Keith Levene doesn't know what he's doing. Type thing, yeah? With Yes, it's like, this tune goes like this tune goes like this, and it looks like that, you know. And I mean, I used to be a Yes roadie, so, you know, and sometimes I look at those situations and I think, how the fuck did I ever get Steve even get his guitar sounds together? I don't use effects. It's not like I don't know how to use them, but I just can't imagine going to that effect every time because it went like that on the record. You know, you might make a new record that night, and you're too busy playing the old one to find out. You know, so that's where I'm coming from. You know, no tours, no Radio City,
and that, in fact, is the whole history of your years with PiL, is that diversity, not only from album to album, but from gig to gig and everything.
Yeah, kids, so I guess this is going to be part one. I do say part one of our Keith Levene special. We're going to come back to talk to Keith Levene, the co-founder of The Clash, co-founder of Public Image, at 8 p.m. next week. Our first hour is going to be our wonderful 90.1 Club member, Mr. Jeff Fulmer, will be our guest for the first hour. That's our personal 90.1 Club. That meant during Radiothon time, he donated $90.10 when I said, an hour of airtime is yours, baby. And that's right. That's how it works here, because that's how we roll. We're nice people. What could I tell you? Anyway, so we're going to continue the Keith Levene and end it next week, 8 to 9 p.m. Get to some Keith solo material that we desperately have to get to enjoy. And yeah, that's about it. So my name is Finn. Until next week, just remember, don't do anything that I wouldn't do. See ya.
Thank you.
So we're on WUSB,
Stony Brook.
and this is Keith Levene suggesting that you tune in every day. Otherwise, we're going to have to send somebody over to your house.
All right, now that was Public Image Ltd. From their album The Flowers of Romance, doing Banging the Door, in case you couldn't tell that. But yeah, a great record. Last week we spent a couple of hours playing some music and talking to Mr. Keith Levene. We're spending an hour here right now. Keith's actually downloading extra music to me now as we speak from his home, and we're gonna be speaking to him right now about Flowers of Romance and how it came about, the album. And let's start that interview now. We're going to be running this interview to 9 o'clock. Oh yeah, and in about 15 minutes we're going to give away a copy of Metal Box, the second Public Image album, otherwise known as Second Edition, in the faux case, the CD, not the record, okay? CD copy of Metal Box, the second Public Image album, so stay tuned for that. But right now, let's get into the interview with Keith Levene, talking about the making of the Flowers of Romance album.
Flowers of Romance album, the actual PiL album, Flowers of Romance.
Yes.
Another huge difference in terms of sound and direction and all that.
That was using the situation that happened, you know. I remember we were recording, I can't remember what tune it was now, and I said, I tell you, it was a tune called Go Back.
Yeah.
I said, tell you what, let's get Wobble, have him throw a bass line on this, I'll do the drums, and then I'll go in with John and we'll do it, yeah? Keith Wobble's not in the band anymore. And I said, is that really true? Did that really happen? I can't believe he's not in the band anymore. And I was thinking, let's still get him, you know. And then I said, okay, I'll go in and do the drums, no bass. Okay, and then I'll go in with John and I'll do the guitar and let him do the vocal because John used to like it. A bit like Patti Smith and Lenny Kaye. I'd play along with John and we could feed off each other, you know. And that's what happened. But the point was, then I was like, aha, okay, I'm going to use the lack of Wobble as an instrument. You know, you know what I mean? This is PiL now.
Yeah, and the low end. Actually, there's tons of low end on the record, however, because of all the
no doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there was a big focus on getting a massive drum sound. It was done in two places. It was done in the Manor, and that was a big drum sound. I did Jaime's hymn there on my own, and again made it up in real time. And I can't remember what else. And then the rest of my memories of being in the Townhouse 2 with Nick Loney and the SSL desk, and that was a new thing. Then the SSL desk. I mean, everyone's got one now, or everyone's used one. With the computer mixes and stuff, and they're doing different versions of Flowers, and just recording this stuff, kind of like Metal Box, a little bit more arty, more cutting up tape, creating loops. It was like we were definitely anticipating what was going to be coming with emulators and Fairlights and what have you. And we were kind of doing it in the studio. And I got to say that there is a certain romance to not being able to program it. And, there's still an organic thing to having a loop, and it can still go out of sync and having to throw it in on it and all this kind of stuff. But it costs money and it takes a lot more time. And Flowers could only come about because we were PiL. We probably spent more money on Flowers than the Metal Box. Yeah, and a very difficult album because Wobble wasn't in the band. I knew this band. Well, in retrospect, I can say this. That, I knew the band was kind of coming to an end. It was either going to have to polarize or focus, or it couldn't go on like this. And so it was actually quite a painful record to do. It was a lot of work to do. Yeah, and I was never that satisfied. I always wished more came out of it, but a lot of people picked up on it as the kind of the most arty, the most really PiL album. This is what PiL's really about. I'd say a combination of the Metal Box and Flowers is what PiL's really about on one side, and a combination of the Metal Box and the first album is the other side. Or Commercial Zone splits the difference, and Commercial Zone never really got aired correctly. This is what you want, this is what you get. Is not Commercial Zone, right. And Commercial Zone has not got the cherry on top, So, it's a lot of frustration with PiL, a lot of potential, and it's funny because the more actual work I put into it, the more it slips away,
Okay.
Go Back from Public Image Ltd. from the album The Flowers of Romance. We are right now in the midst of an interview with Mr. KEITH LEVENE, co-founder of The Clash, co-founder of Public Image Ltd. Great musician, one of my favorite guitarists in the history of music. And I think in about under 5 minutes, we're going to give away a copy of the Metal Box, not the albums, not the records, but the Metal Box CD. Okay, the reissue that came out a few years ago in the replica Metal Box. You are going to get a copy of it in about 5 minutes' time after our next interview segment. And so stay tuned for that. Hopefully you're enjoying this interview with KEITH LEVENE. And as we speak, and I mean literally as we speak, KEITH LEVENE himself is downloading me some tunes from the ill-fated version of what became a kind of weaker album for PiL, which was This Is What You Want, This Is What You Get. But the original version was called Commercial Zone. And KEITH LEVENE was the producer, mixer, and all the rest on that. And here's a song you may be familiar with if you're a fan of Public Image. But this is a little different, significantly different. And this is called This Is Not a Love Song right here on WUSB Stony Brook.
This is not a love song. This is not a love song. This is not a love
Yeah.
So
Let's just move ahead just a little bit to Commercial Zone. So you guys are doing something once again. By the way, the Flowers shows that happen in New York, the Flowers of Romance shows, great shows. When you guys are touring for Flowers of Romance, and everyone.
Yeah, that was the Pete Jones, Martin Atkins, KEITH LEVENE, John Lydon thing.
Right.
That was each gig. There was no tour. It was like each gig was worked out, and we were doing that to finance Commercial Zone.
Right.
We were doing it to pay for this studio. A really great guy, Bob Kalina, let us use a studio called Park South in Manhattan. Really cool guy. And he didn't get the biggest thanks for it, but I did spend a lot of time with him, and whatever. Yeah, go on. What's
Okay, so you guys begin making Commercial Zone, and things go awry at that point, right? We're kind of at the end of the tether for the band.
Well, things that were right, like John was making this movie, Order of Death, with the Harvey Keitel, which was a great thing, and I made the slab for that. I mean, they actually put it out as Order of Death, but it's kind of weird version, but same theme, but not the same spirit. But what I'm saying is, so I'm really kind of paying the rent, keeping the studio together, trying to get sessions, and then when I do get sessions, I'm the only one in there. And every now and then I can have Pete Jones in there doing endless bass lines for This Is Not a Love Song, which is okay. I mean, it's because we're trying to get it, you know, and Martin, and it wasn't a good, you know, it wasn't a copacetic thing, you know, there's a lot of, what's the word, you know, friction, the static, between everyone, and there's a lot of like, let's get Keithy now. This is it. Let's get him. You know, and that's what you get for hiring a fan. Okay, and I will say, you know, this thing with Martin Ackles and John becoming lovers, and you know, figure of speech. Okay, you know, it was just insane. Okay, so John would be calling me from Italy. I'd never see Jeanette. I don't even know what she did in the band. She was supposed to be doing visuals and video. None of that was happening. Okay, and I'm trying to make this frigging record, and I'm doing my best. I'm playing some stuff, playing Lou Reed Part 1 and something else, a couple of other things that didn't even make the actual cut, and he's saying, oh, it sounds like a load of old blues geezers. And I said, well, you make this sound like a bad thing, you know? And then he kind of comes back, and we do This Is Not a Love Song. He's like, this is good, you know? And then the best session I remember was pulled off a track called Blue Water, and one of Martin's incessant kind of weird drum beats, but you know, he was trying. Okay, that was good. And then Miller High Life, really good tune. I'm more produced that than had too much synths on it, what have you. But it was more about production and having Martin's drum trigger all these other sounds and what have you. You know, good solid backing tracks. But the album never quite realised its potential, and it was because it was just so much work to put it together, and then there was this big argument. They did this horrible dub mix of This Is Not a Love Song. It was like, let me get some Steve, you know, we're all friends again, because we thought it'd all come back together, and I had a talk with John, and they did this awful mix, and I just went in there to just do the, you know, dare I say it, the commercial mix of This Is Not a Love Song, you know, the disco hit, and he called me from LA, and they were saying, like, get out of the studio, get out of my studio. I'm like, your studio? Hey, fuck off, bang. And that was it. And at the end of that session, I was like, hey, guess what, Martin? Good tune. I'm more produced that than had too much synths on it, what have you. But it was more about production and having Martin's drum trigger all these other sounds and what have you. You know, good solid backing tracks. But the album never quite realised its potential, and it was because it was just so much work to put it together, and then there was this big argument. They did this horrible dub mix of This Is Not a Love Song. It was like, let me get some Steve, you know, we're all friends again, because we thought it'd all come back together, and I had a talk with John, and they did this awful mix, and I just went in there to just do the, you know, dare I say it, the commercial mix of This Is Not a Love Song, you know, the disco hit, and he called me from LA, and they were saying, like, get out of the studio, get out of my studio. I'm like, your studio? Hey, fuck off, bang. And that was it. And at the end of that session, I was like, hey, guess what, Martin?
Yeah, all 3 copies gone of the metal box, and yeah, congratulations to the winners. That would be Lori, Paula, and John. We're going to listen to something else from Commercial Zone right now, the album that never really came out. This is called Lou Reed Part 1, and right after this, we're going to get into the interview that says it all with Keith. It's about his solo projects, stuff he's doing now, and also about his last conversation with Mr. Lydon. Right after this song, Lou Reed Part 1. And now we're getting back to our interview with Keith Levene, co-founder of The Clash, co-founder of Public Image Ltd, right here on WUSB, Stony Brook.
Yeah, really great potential, but nothing happened. It never got out. I mean, Murder Global was a bigger band, and we only did 2 shows, and again, it was one of those sort of 7 people and 11 people were there. But one of those performances is on, if you put both the releases, so on the more expensive one, the actual Search for Absolute Zero, the original one, there's a video called What's... that's not it though, is it? Yes, it is. Because that starts off with all this PiL footage, doesn't it? And then goes into some sort of graphic stuff. And the tune that sort of metamorphosizes into it is a really great... It was actually, I believe, the only live Murder Global performance, you know? So if you want your Flowers of Romance, you're going to get it from Murder Global. And that was me and a guy called Subs and a guy called Daniel, and I don't know their real names. I know Daniel's name's Daniel. He's a very unique drummer. And it's like, so there were 3 of us. It was very like PiL, and they were very into PiL. And that performance, it was a real-time composition, and it was a composition. You know, sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. That came off, you know, and it was live. So, you know, the mindset was live, and... they're just so amazing the way they just keep that monotonous thing going. I don't know how familiar you are with it yet, you know. But,
yeah, well, I've been listening to a lot of that, since I picked it.
You know, it's difficult to kind of, when you first, I mean, it took me a while to get used to that video. And then you realise, wait a minute, this is the Tom Snyder thing, and there's no PiL backing track like that, because it's Metal Boxing Dub. And that was done before I was even thinking about talking to Wobble. You know, that wasn't done because of the Wobble thing, this MBID, as it's now called, Metal Boxing Dub. That was done because it was an unfinished business thing. It was a cathartic thing. I was making all these 3D things, and so a lot of them had these kind of PiL RIP logos in them, and all this kind of stuff, and sort of pills going on into the background, and I realised, oh God, I've still so got this in my system, you know. It's not, I've heard people say that I'm really upset about PiL. What is it when you're really... I can't think of the word. But I'm not. Okay, I'm a little bit... I just feel like there was unfinished business and there was a lot of potential. But the thing is I just feel like that's being fulfilled now, and it could never have been fulfilled in PiL. I think certain people were overestimated, and... You know, the situation, 3 very strong egos. I'm not counting the drummer, Jim Walker, a really great drummer, but, you know, Wobble functions best as the governor of his situation. Lydon, well, that speaks for itself. And me, well, you know me. So, you know, it's working out best now. And it's just funny how I'm in contact with people that passed through the band, like Richard Dudansky and Ken, who was around at the beginning. You know, plenty of people are happy to contact me and try things, and it's really not a problem, you know.
Well, your whole approach to music is so eclectic. You're open to so many things playing wise. So that's another great thing, you know.
Yeah, I've always...
Stylistically, you're all over the place, which is great. You're very diverse. It seems like you don't like to stay in one place for too long musically.
No, I mean, maybe it's because of my musical ear or what have you, but it's boring to do that. And you know, and another thing is when you're actually doing it, you don't want to be doing something you think 55 other people are going to do that day. I mean, if I'm sitting around playing acoustic guitar, I don't mind if I'm just playing an old school tune that Chet Atkins played and Tommy Emmanuel's going to play every night, and I'm going to play it the same way. And if you like acoustic guitar, that's great, but I know I'm not breaking any musical barriers. I'm definitely trying to break musical barriers, and you're not going to sit around doing Pink Floyd tunes or doing something that everyone else has got to do. You know, you've got to try stuff, but it's a really hard line to walk along, because it's really important to not try so hard to be different that you're kind of acting like Subway Sect. You know, you've got to feel about it. You know, it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you're better off just sort of defaulting to what you can do. And so I'm always sitting there in a very self-conscious position thinking, oh, Frank, this isn't working out. I mean, when I did Search, I knew I'd nailed it, okay? But I heard it the other day and I was thinking, no, I don't know. But I mean, that's been the gift that keeps on giving. And I'm just talking about the tune. I mean, Wobble wasn't even on that. I mean, when we did those sessions, Wobble sat down, we never said a word to each other. Just like Metal Box, and we did it, okay? But we nailed it in one. With the Metal Box, we were doing it to tape and sort of listening to tape and doing best of and saying, you know what, why edit it off the tape? Because no digital stuff, then when we can just do it again, let's do it again. Don't do that bit, don't do this bit, yeah? But this was just done. You know, I think Wobble had something to do, so they shut off, and me and Mark were still recording, and we did Search Absolute Zero, and I knew it was it. I was like, oh, this is great. And that was the third one that day, and, you know, I don't know what question I'm answering here. But
we're just talking and answering a question. That's good.
Yeah, so this thing, it's like, I've got this thing, you know, musicians, hey man, let's jam. When even the greatest musicians are jamming, they're not jamming. You know, when they're improvising, they're not improvising. They've got these little, I mean, obviously you've got to be able to play. I mean, you can play your instrument, right? But invariably, they're not jamming. They're playing stuff they know they can pull off. They're playing chops. They're kind of wanking off, you know, to an extent. And I know people that are into music understand this, musicians. Are you actually a musician, Finn?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so... and you really understand that. And the thing is you've got to be very honest with yourself. So in split-second, nanosecond intervals, you're going to think, can I pull this off? And you've got to take the chance. You've got to be prepared to fail, okay? And you've got to be prepared to hear something that you're not going to be familiar with and you don't know how you're going to react to it. That's real-time composition. So it is improvisation, but it's really true improvisation. Now, obviously, you're relying on your skill, but you're discovering things as you go along. Now, when people used to slag off PiL, and a lot of people did, they'd say, you know, so indulgent, this, that, and I went through a lot of pain about that. But in the end, I just thought, you know, where's the place to do this, right? Live, in real time. It's the only way. And after getting such a great response from the Metal Box, and more so the first album now, because that actually more than got in under the wire. And the more I hear that album now, the more I think, wow, you know, we really fulfilled the brief, so to speak. You know, I realised, you know what, this works and it's worth it, and it sucks when it fails. Okay, it kind of sounds interesting. It probably sounds more interesting to musicians than it would to the general people that would be into it. Not the general public, because the general public's never been into this stuff. But, you know, but when it comes off, you know, the people that love it just love it. And I think... me. Well, there we go. And you've got people that are saying, oh, you know, when are you and Wobble going to tour again? When's the NBA? You know, hey, what about... are you going to be doing 2051? Are you going to be doing Search for Absolute Zero? Because if I do Search... don't you think I'm going to be there and you're going to get all these chunks? You're going to get real-time composed second rendition. I mean, I'm doing this album second rendition. I have to do an acoustic Metal Box, it would appear, you know. And it turns out I can and not have too much trouble legally. And I've been working on it, and it's going to be great. And
sounds really interesting, the acoustic version.
You know, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. And like the thing is, it's more elements of it than... I'm not going to sit there and do pop tones, but you're going to go, wait a minute, that's pop tones. What's that? You know, and it's just great. It's going to be great. So the stuff I'm doing because I believe people want it, and I'm doing it because I want to do it, and I can do it now. You know, with this fingerstyle guitar, you know, it's just... it's going to be gorgeous, yeah. 2051 is like, it's a much bigger thing. It's very like Sergio Levene, you know. Are you familiar with, I did some tunes. I did Louis Part 1 and 2, but I did a tune called The Slab, which only really touches on it. Okay, so the theme tune for 2051 is just so fucking dramatic, and it's all done on acoustic. I mean, I can orchestrate it. And if I release it, I have to do both. I've got to do the acoustic version and do the big version. And I want to orchestrate it with, you know, a simulated orchestra and, you know, all these Oberheim synths, very similar to the ones Van Geddes used on Blade Runner. Because I used to have a couple of those, you know, and they're just amazing. And I've always really dug what Van Geddes did on Blade Runner, and I won't be copying him. I just know the potential of these synths, and there's so much stuff around now, and these are analog synths.
Right.
Yeah.
And you also, well, that's like your great sound on Radio 4, your keyboard work on Radio 4.
What do you think that is?
What do I think the keyboards are?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know offhand. Why? What is it?
Well, interestingly,
It's a great sound. It's the most spectacular ending to a record I could think of. After everything that happens, especially after chant, obviously at the end, and Radio 4 comes in, it's just gorgeous. What is it?
Okay, well, I don't actually know. It was this Yamaha keyboard with 3 white buttons, and it was a kind of organ. Okay, but it went there, so I took it there a bit further. I mashed it up through the desk a bit, and the reason Radio 4 came about was, I don't know why, but nobody showed up at the studio 2 nights running. I mean, the whole townhouse, what was it, 36 channels in 24 tracks, state-of-the-art at the time studio. Nobody turned up the first night. I got used to it, and so I was there, and I'm like, and I'm doing it, and then the next night I just, I've got to finish this off, and I knew what the sounds were, then I went in, and I didn't change much. I just finished it off, took the drums off, because there were drums on it at first. It was just, you have to know this. When I did the original of that, I was in the studio with Ken Lockey, and he was doing the piano, and I was playing drums on it. And then I went in there, and I took the drums off and put the keyboard on it, and I really was it was my first attempt of doing an orchestra, and this keyboard was really giving it up. I said, this is great, this really sounds like it, No Prophet Fives, no Selena. I was trying to make it sound like a Selena, and I pulled it off. You did.
It's a fantastic sound. And is that you playing, just to talk about that specific song for a second, is that you playing bass on that too?
Yeah. I played it to kind of sound, I played it like, if Wobble could play bass more, this is what he would do, kind of thing. And I was also trying to make it sound like pick staccato cello. Okay. But we were really heavily into dub bass then, so I wasn't too bothered that it wasn't over authentic. It was just spirit of pick staccato, but Wobble, spirit of Wobble too. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you doing Wobble, right? If you're playing bass on it? Yeah, it's great. I love that too. I think that's one of the best. Matter of fact, I have on hand my original.
Nice. Man, you gotta love those things, don't you?
You do, yes. And over the years, you always have to be careful taking them out and putting them in. But other than that, right?
And I'm still chasing Japan. I was there last year, and it was a good thing, but it wasn't what I don't know what I've got in mind, but I know what it wasn't. And the Fuji thing was really good. I don't know if you've seen any footage of it. But it was good, and they loved it. They loved what I was doing. They loved our renditions, Metal Vox and Dub renditions, and I like what me and Wobble did with Metal Vox and Dub, because we didn't reform PiL. We never pretended to. We weren't trying to. We weren't doing it for money. We were doing it because we believed in the material, and a lot of people didn't get to hear it in Japan, and now they've seen us live, and I want to take 2051 back there, and they'll get everything they've ever wanted. And there's, I hear from a lot of people on social media who are really interested, and they're still really missing this record. So I want to get it to them. Yeah.
All right. So now, bringing us up to date a bit with with stuff. You've been releasing stuff. Matter of fact, I have to tell you a quick little story. The reason I eventually capitulated to buying compact discs, was to get your first album. Oh, because that's the only way it was available at the time, where I could get it. So way back when. So great stuff. All different directions. Once again, tracks from clearly different periods, some different people on them. Just great stuff. And the digital stuff now that's out is great. And you have the book coming out, hopefully in 2014, right?
Well, realistically, hopefully by March in 2014, yeah.
Perfect. That'd be a wonderful thing. Keith, where can people find out more about you, what you're up to, things along those lines? What's the website?
What did I say? What's my name? Finch?
Keith Levene.
Okay, so you go to keithlevene.com, and that will take you to keithlevenelive.com, or you can go to keithlevenelive.com, and that's where you're going to find out everything that's happening now. If you go to keithlevene.com or murderglobal.com, similar sites, you're going to find stuff that ain't on Keith Levene Live. You go to Keith Levene Live, you get the current live records. Within a couple of weeks and a whole lot more, you're going to get previews of this Diary of a Non-Punk Rocker. So you're going to find out if you want this book or not by looking at the previews. Finn, I don't know if you've seen the previews. Have you?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Well, tell me how tell me how they come across, because I don't know. Because I've never, I remember, obviously I read them when me and Kathy were doing them, but I haven't looked at them on the site. I just know they're there.
I think that the whole thing is extremely readable. You're talking about some of the things we talked about just now today, with the forming of the band and the three Johns and all the rest of that. It reads extremely well. It really flows beautifully. It's a good read.
Do you know how difficult it is not to embellish? But
well, you have plenty of other people out there embellishing these stories, so you don't need to.
Well, this is the thing. This was my motivation. Hey, guess what? Real story. I'm going to give it. This is going to be the real story.
Okay.
And it's simple rule. Don't lie, and you get the real story. Because I can remember pretty much everything. There's definitely gaps. There's definitely stuff people go, remember this, and I'm like, no, totally don't. But I remember kids from school when I was 8 and 10 and all this kind of stuff. I remember all this stuff. I remember exactly what it felt like. I remember the day I was at a bus stop with Viv Albertine and Mick Jones, and it was my birthday, and I was 18. And Mick Jones went, what? Right? This was the beginning of the end with the Clash, right? We're going to a Clash. We're going to rehearsals, right? And, with Viv, I don't know what's going on. We're in Shepherd's Bush. She's probably going to go back home. We're going to Camden. He's like, what? He made me show me my frigging driving license to prove I was, because I had a provisional because I was 17. So I was 18. It was July the 18th. She's going, Viv's known me longer than Mick. Viv's, no, he's 18. No, he's 18. And he's like, what? And it was never the same after that. He loved me when we met, and then he hated me after that day. I think he figured I was a year younger than him, not 3 or 4. Okay. What was he? Not even that, 2. I think he's born in 1955, Mick. But you know how important that is when you're 17 and 19?
It's a huge difference.
It's huge, yeah. And, but it's not the kind of thing you turn on your partner for.
Right.
And so that was, there was no Joe Strummer in the band. That's how long ago it was, yeah. It's just funny, yeah. I mean, I can remember that. I remember how it felt right now. I'm sitting here. I can remember it. I can see it in my head as well. Just funny stuff, So, yeah, anyway, KEITHLEVENELive.com. And there's going to be a blog on there. You can subscribe. The reason we want subscription and everything is, obviously, if you're interested in me, I hope you're interested in my records. And the more you participate, the more I can put out. Right. Okay, because I'm not dancing to the brief of any record company or any unseen angel or anything. I mean, hopefully, maybe an unseen angel will come on the scene, right? But right now, it's all as we wanted it to be in Public Image Ltd. We're not a band, we're a company. We're not a company because we can't be asked to be a company, but we're as close as that as you can be on a .com, So, we were missing the internet in Public Image Ltd. Now the internet's a pain in the ass because everyone's on it. Okay, so if you're going to be on the internet, get on Keith Levene Live. It doesn't take long. It's only like a 10-minute trip, isn't it? Really,
Great. One last question, Keith. What's the last time that you recall speaking to Mr. Lydon?
Oh, Jesus! Everyone went to LA. Everyone was going to the moon. Everyone went to LA, and that was after Commercial Zone. When was that? 1981 or 83? Whenever. Okay, I think it was 83. Right? Yeah. Okay, so. 1 minute we're in New York, everyone's in LA, John's in LA. I contacted him 3 times, arranged the meeting 3 times. 3 times he let me down. I gave him three strikes and he was out, even though that rule wasn't around then. And, that was it. Now, Trouble Funk did something for my birthday in LA. That was back 1985 by then. And he showed up at this club, I can't remember where it was now, with like 12 guys or 12 people. Probably
his entourage.
His entourage, right? And Melvis, the door lady, who was much like a man, came up to me and said, look, I've got Johnny Lydon outside with guys, And I said, well, you're the door person, don't ask me. And she didn't let him in. So I haven't spoken to him since that day in the studio on the phone, really. I had him on the phone in LA. I remember saying, because it wasn't email. I was on CompuServe, but it wasn't email. There's no way he had a computer. And... it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll meet you then. Yeah. It never happened. 3 times, and that was it. Done. Right. So, yeah, and he's never, he's never counted me in on any of his PiL debacles, of his reformations. I believe he counted Wobble into one and kind of insulted him, and Wobble just said, hey, I tell you what, John, take a hike. And, because by then Wobble was just like, show me the money and I'll show it. Because Wobble, there's no doubt he delivered the goods, and that's... It's like, John, I don't want to be friends. You want Wobble on bass, you'll get Wobble. He's showing the money, and apparently he didn't show enough respect, and so Wobble never did it anyway. So that's the answer on that one.
Yeah, and the whole PiL thing, of course, has really just turned out to be a Lydon solo project anyway now, so...
Yeah, and the thing is, he's obviously trying to... I mean, that's why it's really great news. Why do you think they're releasing the first album? I don't think they're doing it because they understand the material. They're doing it because they're thinking, God, if we want to represent John, we want the best material he's got. And it ain't going to be the fifth album, is it? So that's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. KEITH Levene, stay on the line with us just for a minute, but I want to thank you so much for joining us. And it's been a pleasure to have you. And this has all been part of this 2-hour special. And all your material, just always interesting, always great, great player. And, we look forward to live shows in New York at some point in the future.
Yeah, so that concluded our, well, I said 2 hours there, but 3-hour interview with Mr. KEITH Levene, co-founder of The Clash, co-founder of Public Image Ltd, and KEITH talking about, I love that story right there where KEITH is talking about just on his 18th birthday being with Mick Jones and Viv Albertine at a bus stop, and Mick not believing he just turned 18 that day, and because he thought he was a little closer in age to Mick. Mick didn't realize he was quite a few years older than, a few years older than KEITH, 3 years older. And an amazing story right there. Big turning point. It's funny how we all look back at different times and there's little moments that are turning points, and there was one for KEITH. So anyway, yeah, thanks for joining us. But we're listening to right now a little something called The Search for Absolute Zero, a very new release from KEITH Levene. Let's listen to it and enjoy it a little bit before we go out. Yeah, so right, that was fun. Am I right? Talking to KEITH Levene, founder of The Clash, founder of Public Image Ltd. Great guy. This is another one of his solo tunes here. Cops 2, it's called, from the album Violent Opposition, right here on WUSB Stony Brook. Next week, Stony Brook Film Festival director Mr. Alan Inkles will be joining us. Always a great thing. Congratulations to all the winners tonight. And we'll be giving away some tickets to the film festival next week. So until next week, just remember, don't do anything that I wouldn't do. See ya.